Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 154 of Hotline League. This is the last episode of the year, and boy, am I excited to be here because we're going to be talking about the biggest international event of the year. Actually, the second. There's only two of them this year, and that's All-Stars. And I have consumed none of it, and so Mark Zarabit is going to be telling me all about it. I missed all the action.
You didn't watch All Stars, dude. You missed half the international competition this year.
I was driving through the southwest portion of the United States because flying is not a safe thing right now. Anyway, of course, this show is brought to you by
the Rhythm of War.
Yes, I did. Of course, this show is brought to you by Alienware. We thank them so much for their support. Mark Zimmerman, my constant co-host, is here, looking extra festive. My tree is relocated to the living room. I should have made sure that was a thing.
Or just put some lights up.
Yeah.
Slacker. I'm doing good. So funny story for people who are on the podcast and might have missed the beginning of this. When we were doing tech checks and stuff, my dad texted me to tell us that we sound good. So my dad's been texting me, basically like I'm his personal Twitch chat. And we were talking about like, does he have a Twitch account or whatever? And then he said he did, and he was a sub. And so I went to like look at it, and I was able to guess which one it was because funny story, my dad, and I might butcher this a little bit, but whatever. When the movie Wedding Crashers came out, we're all like, oh, no one actually crashes weddings, right? And apparently when my dad was younger, he actually crashed a couple weddings. And he used this fake name when he was doing that. And so I know now whenever my dad wants to pretend to be someone, he uses this fake name. And so I was able to figure it out pretty easily which account was his.
Gotcha. C9 Fudge. Can't believe you used that name.
Yep. My dad's going to be starting top laner for C9.
Yeah. Thick Man Gaming says it's him in the Twitch chat. Several different people are taking credit.
No one believe Thick Man Gaming.
Panda Dad says Mark was quite the crazy youngster when he was a kid. There's several people in here that are claiming to be your father in Twitch chat. Yeah. Well, anyway.
Twitch raises children.
That sounds like such a bad idea. I'm sorry you fell down on your bike. That was very sad. Anyway,
change diaper, give bottle.
Oh no. Okay. Anyway, so this is our holiday episode, and I'm realizing now we should be drinking. Wait, do you have any booze?
Do I have booze? I've become a mixologist, a casual mixologist. I've learned Moscow Mule. I've learned. I'm really blanking. I learned a bunch.
Okay, you learned how to make a single cocktail.
I've learned like 5 or 6. I'm just too lazy to count them all off right now. I think for me, I have eggnog. I have lactose-free eggnog and rum.
You should do that. I completely blanked on the fact that because this is our last episode, we normally drink.
Oh, we already started.
So
what are you gonna do? Just put a 2-minute pause button on this while we make our drinks?
No, I'm asking if somebody can bring me some.
Oh my god, my cat is like in fucking spaz mode right now, dude. That was my fault for revving him up. All right, I'll be right back. I'm gonna make a drink.
Okay, well, I'm gonna fill time then. So first off, a couple different things. I just want to tell everybody happy holidays because holidays are coming up in 4 days. Which, well, if depending on what holidays you celebrate, I guess I should say, the big one is coming up soon. So thank you to everyone who has been subbing and celebrating the end of the year with me as I've been Twitch streaming. Also, oh, you know what wine I should ask for? Can you crack open the? Avali has a wine. Her family makes wine, and every year she gives me wine, and it's fantastic. And so I actually have some, I think, from last year that she gifted me. So I'm going to see if I can get some of that cracked open. Anyway, also, if you guys have not watched it yet, I did an interview with Bjergsen, a retirement interview that is almost an hour long. And in it, here are some of the things I asked him. Does he regret leaving Europe to come to North America? Because perhaps he would have had better international success over his career. Did he ever consider leaving TSM? Would he have retired if they had not gone 0-6 at Worlds? And why did he decide to retire? and how does he plan to have things go differently for him as a coach, and how does he plan it. So anyway, it's just, I think, a really good interview if you are listening to the podcast or watching on YouTube or something and you haven't watched it yet. This is good content as well, but perhaps go check it out because I thought it was really good. It is not clickbait, I don't think. Mark, I was just talking about the retirement interview I did with Bjergsen, which I know you haven't had a chance to catch up and probably won't ever, but it was really, really good.
I saw it on the subreddit, and I didn't even get a chance to open the Reddit comments.
Yeah. Well,
I normally would at least do that.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite interview I've done all year. Not that it's like a particularly high bar, because obviously it's been difficult to.
Because you're not a very good interviewer.
What is happening in the background of your?
Oh, so we sometimes call him Oracle. It's his nickname because he's got a little fucked up eye. One of them is a little squinty. I don't know if you can see his left eye. Hey, don't swipe at me, dude. Anyways, he sometimes stares off into space, or like will try and climb walls for something that he sees in the ceiling. And so we think he can see spirits. So I think he's just communing. See, look, there he goes. He's just communing.
That's weird. Anyway.
It's definitely weird when you wake up in the middle of the night and your cat's just staring at the ceiling. The ceiling gives you a little.
But anyway, yeah, that interview I think was really good, and we talked a lot.
Was there anything really cool that I missed? What's the one fact everyone should know from that interview?
I think there's less facts and more just reactions to stuff, right? Like, I think his philosophy that, like, he didn't retire because he got tired of playing. It sounds like he retired because he feels like he can do more to make TSM succeed as a coach than as a player. And I know that sounds like a kind of like BS, like PR response, but the way he explains it, I think, makes me really believe that's sort of his philosophy. He basically said that, like, okay, I don't want to contradict him, because in an earlier interview with me this year, he said that he wasn't really coaching TSM, but a lot of people felt like he was this year, and he kind of implied that he was coaching TSM because he talks about how when he was at LCS, or in the LCS throughout this year, he did a really great job of, well, not, I mean, he doesn't say really great job, but he says, like, he spent a lot of time making sure that the team could succeed by talking to them, figuring stuff out, working, obviously not just as a mid laner. And when he went to Worlds and he had to lane against players like Knight, he had to stop focusing on leading the team. Excuse me, and start focusing on like just being a mid laner. And he felt like it was because he couldn't balance both of those. That is one of the reasons why they performed so poorly at Worlds. So I don't know. I think it's really interesting, really fascinating, and I hope that people get a chance. I hope the broadcast gets a chance to watch it before the start of the season next year, because I think it sets up a really interesting narrative for him as a coach. And I get it's like Travis content, and me telling people to watch it is like a meme, but even if they just skip the parts of me and ad block the shit out of it, I feel like a lot of the people on the broadcast should watch it because it's pretty interesting.
I'm sure we'll also interview Bjergsen. The other thing about that, well, I won't, but someone will, I bet. I think that's interesting as well with that is it seems to imply almost that it's easier to find a replacement mid laner than a good coach. Because if he's like, how can I most help TSM? If it's going to the coaching position, even though you're still like, if you're not burning out and you're not kind of losing the fire to play, then it sounds like you're saying it's like, well, someone else can take my spot, but no one can coach us like I can, or whatever, like it's a weird implication to think about.
Yeah. It's easier. Yeah, to your point, it sounds like he thinks it's easier to find a good mid laner than a good coach. So
yeah.
He also he had really good words for Huni. He talked about how he thinks that Huni has a reputation that he doesn't necessarily deserve, and that Broken Blade had tons of struggle against him whenever he would lane against him, and that he thinks, and he watched a ton of Huni's games, and he thought they were really good. So he thinks that the community has a bad impression or an incorrect impression of his potential. So I think it's very, very interesting. I don't know. I'm excited. It made me really excited because I think it, as I said, I mean, for instance, he said he doesn't even like considering it a retirement. It's more of like a role swap in his mind, where he's like, okay, I'm going to still be competing, but as a coach, making sure that this team succeeds.
I mean, I like that too because it feels like, I mean, maybe it's just me holding out, but like there's a chance that he comes back to playing more likely. If it's not like a retirement in his mind, if he's not framing it that way for himself.
So I asked him about that as well, and I won't give the answer on it, but I asked if there was a chance he'd come back, and people should go watch it. It's good.
Has your drink arrived? What are you drinking?
Well, so what's funny is I'm asking somebody to help open it. It's a bottle of Avali's family wine, and the messages I've been getting. Oh, it seems like it's okay. Thank you. There was an electric bottle opener situation that she was struggling with. Yeah, it was a struggle. But anyway,
you just got to give it a quick tap against the wall, shatter it, and
cheers to Avali for bringing for this wine that she gifted me last year, and now I can drink it. Cheers to you, and cheers to everybody that is drinking responsibly and legally at home.
Cheers.
What did you make? Moscow Mule? Oh no, you got the eggnog.
Yeah, so funny story about that. I wasn't really paying attention when I made it, and I grabbed the almond milk first, or oat milk. I guess it's oat milk. So I filled it with oat. Yeah, I mean, so cutting eggnog with milk isn't that uncommon.
Yeah.
But yeah, more oat milk than eggnog with rum on top is actually not a winning combo.
Rip.
But it's in my cup now, so gotta drink it.
Anyway, let's talk about this. So, All Stars happened this weekend. I saw none of it. So, how was it? I mean, I saw viewership was down. Let me first ask you this: how comfortable are you talking about All Stars, given that you were part of the broadcast, in terms of like feedback on it and that type of stuff?
I mean, I'm pretty open. I think it's a tough year. It's COVID year. All Stars in general is not always the best event. What part of that you can say is maybe Riot's decision making. I think the other part of it is that like it's hard to make a compelling event for pros and fans when the pros have just worked all year and like, hey, come out and do this thing. It's always a bit of a struggle, and especially online. And there's a bunch of weird situations, but I think that it was a decent job. I enjoyed working in the event actually more than I thought I would, if I'm being honest. When I found out, or like when they asked me, I was like, "Yeah, give me the paycheck." And then I actually ended up casting. So this is another funny story. Crumbs' internet boomed on Sunday, so I wasn't supposed to cast at all. I was just going to do my regular AD thing, and then I ended up casting 3 games that day, and I don't know, it was fun.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah, I don't think I'm a great caster, and I could definitely feel at times where I was like, man, I wish I had more things to add to Captain Flower's insane energy, but I don't.
Well, if you have to cast with anybody, I feel like casting with Flowers is, he's just going to carry you with enthusiasm, right?
I feel like yes, and also, but you have to be a little bit careful because sometimes when someone's so much better than you, it just illustrates that you're not that good.
Yeah. He's like, bringing all these great jokes, this high energy, and you're like, yeah, and also it's crazy that they're going for red first. That's wild.
Well, and these games too are like, they're fucking dumb, let's be honest. It's like preseason, no one's trying, there's role swaps, there's like all these, it's like Nemesis draft, and like there's nothing a color can really add there other than like hype and fun. And so like even if I could like have some cool insight ready to go, it's just like, man, God damn it, I can't. But I think we had some good jokes. We made fun of people who get free gear on expansions for like WoW and PoE and stuff. I think we did pretty well.
Do you think maybe we just limit ourselves to 2 All-Stars callers tonight? Because I feel like a lot of our audience probably didn't watch All-Stars, so they don't really want an All-Stars episode. We do want to talk a little bit about 2020, which I can explain in a second. But
yeah,
that's a good idea.
On the All-Stars topic, there's really not much to say. I mean, it's basically I liked it or I didn't like it, and here's what I'd want to see different. Which is not a wide range because it's not like you can be like this player underperformed, like that. Just that whole angle is dead. So I don't think there's that much interesting stuff to say. I'll maybe pull 1 or 2, but otherwise I think it will go more towards the other way that we usually do these end of year episodes.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think the one thing I would say is I've seen a lot of people say Riot didn't advertise All Stars. I don't know. I felt like Riot advertised All Stars a lot. I hadn't even opened the client, and I know it was in the client a ton, but I also saw a ton of stuff on Twitter. And Instagram, social media. They made a video that was like specifically for the event, which called Run It, which I found hilarious because Tim
Yep.
and I obviously have an episode or a show called Run It. So there's a lot there. It's just like it never really caught on Reddit. There were some threads still, but like there's people that were like, I had no idea this was a thing, and I'm like, at a certain point in time, yes, it is on Riot to hype it up. But if they're creating like original assets that they're posting to their YouTube, they're promoting it in the client, it's on Twitter, it's on Instagram, like it's going to be tough, I guess. Do you want them to? You guys are all running ad blocks, so you're not going to see any ad inventory that they buy on anything anyway. So it's just like I don't know what else people want. I mean, you can sub to their or you can follow their channel on Twitch or YouTube, and it should give you alerts. Like I don't know, it's kind of weird.
I think it's the kind of thing where a lot of the people who watch on Reddit may not have Twitter or other social media, or maybe the people they followed aren't promoting it. Like if you're following players, they're not really promoting it, right?
Right.
So I think it's very likely the kind of thing where these people hadn't logged into client in that long, mostly get their news and information about League through Reddit. And there was like Reddit hadn't picked up on it really because no one really like.
Well, also, I mean,
more competitive angle.
We have the worst viewership we've had all year long right now on the show, which I'm not complaining about. It's just like everything I'm putting out right now is just kind of like doing pretty lukewarm in terms of content wise because I think people just are not. It's the off season. All the trade stuff has already happened. There's just nothing going on, and so people are like, we don't care about LoL esports right now, and we don't care about this stuff, and they're just not checking. You know, they're not paying attention. And They don't. It's not a thing.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. And viewership was around 40 to 60K. It looked like, which, you know, I'm not the kind of person who knows if that is fine from a like business end, but from a fun tournament to close out the year, you know, that doesn't have all the biggest names. You know, like 40 to 60K is fine, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like. The biggest names in the biggest name in EU was Whippo, and the biggest name in NA was Core JJ. You know, those are both really great guys and great players, and I think they're both really funny. Actually, Core JJ had some really hilarious shit, but like they're not the big like eyeball getters in their leagues. So.
True. Yeah. The big eyeball getters retired. Anyway, so we'll probably take a couple calls about All Stars if people have something interesting. No guarantees, but besides that. This is the last episode of the year. What we normally do is for the last episode of the year, we take calls reflecting on 2020. So what do you guys think? And I'm planning, hopefully I have some time to do these videos. I want to do a video that's like, what did Riot do well this year? What did Riot do poorly this year from an LCS fan perspective, you know, focusing on esports. But I think, you know, ahead of me making that video, if people have things they want to call in about, if you think Riot did a great job with the COVID stuff and navigating this kind of remote broadcast stuff, if you think that Worlds was bad or some of their messaging around stuff was bad, or I don't know, you liked or didn't like their sponsor obligation, whatever, any number of different things, you can do that. So feel free to go ahead and put that into the Discord. I'm not going to go through the spiel right now because I'm assuming everybody who's watching right now has already seen it, but feel free to put your takes in. It might be a bit of a shorter episode. I know we always say that, and then it somehow ends up being 2 hours long, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Okay, I got 2 people in the waiting room. You want me to grab some more?
Yeah,
first?
one of them is deafened, so they can't hear you join, but
yeah.
Javigme, please.
Did you say you said things that they liked or didn't like about this year, right?
Yeah, anything. So we basically, this is the 2020 recap episode. Your favorite stories, your things you thought Riot did well, you know, things that you, whatever. The 2021 stuff we will do as our first episode in the new year, which I will believe will be, because we're not going to do an episode next week, so on the 4th, as long as I'm not traveling that day. It might be traveling, but assuming I'm not, on the 4th, we will be doing our first episode of the new year. And that's going to be stuff that people are looking forward to for 2021. Probably hype around, you know, the lock-in tournament and all that kind of stuff. So either way, this is the recap episode.
Yeah. You know what? I go to bed dreaming about every night is right when COVID hit and both EU and LCS went remote. You know,
Yeah.
and for a while there, everyone loved NA production because we were able to have a bit of a smoother launch than EU. And there's a period of time where we were the shit, and then there was the Sushi Dragon post game show for the spring finals, which everyone actually liked because it was this weird niche thing.
Yes. Summer
Those
finals hit.
spring finals.
No, I'm saying sorry. Summer split started.
Yeah, then summer split came. There were maybe some incorrect creative choices. E went back to the studio where we were still remote, and the rest is history, man. That's my when I look back at 2020, I'm just like, man, remember spring? Spring was great.
Yeah, I think when I look at this year,
Cloud9 was the best team ever.
Yeah, and we were like, could they take G2 at MSI? That would be crazy.
And then we didn't have to play MSI to be proven wrong.
Yes. I think the thing that really stands out to me, and I'll talk about this in the video a bit. I'm sure we'll get a call about it too. Is just like, man, Riot actually did it. Like they did. Look, I talked a lot about my issues with the summer broadcasts for LCS and all that, but being able to pull off Worlds. I thought for sure, oh man, wouldn't it? I felt like there was a decent chance that some sort of COVID thing would happen at Worlds. You know what I mean? Like all these people flying in from all over the world, something would happen. Because it even happened, I think, at the NBA bubble. But there was just nothing, and they managed to pull the whole thing off, and it was quite impressive. And then they continued. Like there was 1 week downtime for LEC and LCS where they got canceled, I think. Maybe LEC had another blip later on, but the fact that LCS people forget this was not planned, right? It wasn't like, okay, we're going to do some stuff in the studio and then we're going to pivot. It's like suddenly LCS got canceled. Then the very next week it was up and going and actually managing. It's actually really impressive to sort of see that. So I give Riot a lot of credit for what they were able to do there and the broadcasting esports team.
Yeah, I think when you look at how some other esports were affected, it's we actually we're probably one of the better ones to handle it.
100% were the best. Nobody else was able to pull off.
I couched it a little bit because I'm not that in tune with all the other esports team, but I know a couple were very frustrated with what happened to their scene. And then Nintendo is just fucking with Melee for no reason, even without COVID. So that makes it easy to be better than.
That's true. Anyway, let's go ahead and grab our first caller.
Okay.
Off goes Mark. Thank you to General Gecko, Panadad, Reaper, Achilles for gifting a sub, Mr. Drencheladas, Seatown09, I am Justin T, Ami does not exist, Lord Goof, Alters Me Ego. Is that it? Yeah, Alters Migo, Kawaii Sati TV, I'm Chang Song, Fishtix44, The Noblet, and Moogle T. Thank you to everybody who subbed. It's very much appreciated. JNT is here. JNT, you were on the show last week, right?
Yes,
he was the debater
for the Mahmood thing. By the way, I should say, and no, not to distract from your call, JNT, but just for fun, people should know Mahmood now streaming, and I sent him a webcam because he didn't have a webcam the first time he streamed, and so I got his information and sent him one so that he could. Now everyone can go see and interact with Mahmood on Twitch. I would recommend it. It seems like he's got some fun streams.
It's probably a better show than ours right now.
Probably. But JNT, welcome back to the show. Remind everyone where you're calling from.
San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio, Texas. And what do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, it's in relation to the All-Star event and just kind of how it's been on the decline.
Go ahead and break it down.
So pretty much it's kind of been known that All-Stars has been on the decline for the last, I would say, about 3 years. Mainly like the viewership has been taking a huge hit. I remember reading something today saying that there was like a 40% drop in viewership from this year to last. Obviously, that was kind of expected with it all being online and everything. But even the year previous, it was like 25% or something like that. So my, potential solution, I don't know if it's exactly a solution, but a way to, I think, increase viewership and increase hype around it would be to actually move it to the middle of the season. And my two options for that were to either sort of fuse it with MSI and kind of have the two events coincide, or you hold it maybe a week or two in advance of MSI.
Interesting. Okay. Do you think that if you do it before MSI, that it kind of undercuts MSI because you might have people that are attending MSI that would have to compete in the All-Star event type thing?
Well, so what I would say to that is if you look at the NFL and how they do their quote unquote all-star game, which they call the Pro Bowl, basically any of the, sorry, let me just think about it here.
No,
So
sure.
the Pro Bowl happens 1 week before the Super Bowl. So that the Super Bowl is the top two teams in the NFL will play each other. And if you do end up making it to the Super Bowl, you do not actually play in the Pro Bowl. So, for example, like all-star voting would probably happen throughout playoffs after like spring splits have concluded. And if you actually do end up making it, you win your respective region, you would not participate in this version of All-Stars. It would only be like, for example, if Cloud9 were to win, none of the Cloud9 players would actually be able to compete in the All-Stars event. It would be TL players, 100 Thieves players, whoever would have gotten the highest voting from that. So in terms of actual players, like there being conflicts there, I would say you just wouldn't include players who would actually be competing in MSI, and it sort of gives other players who maybe would have finished at the top of their region, not necessarily have won it, to sort of, I guess get involved in some sort of international midseason event.
This is really interesting. JT, I'm actually kind of curious. What do you think of the idea of merging All-Stars and MSI, where there are two ways to get to MSI? You can compete in the main MSI event, where you qualified, you're the best in the region, etc., or you can get voted in to be on this All-Star team and go compete and be, the best in your region from either popularity or just like you're a player that was really good that didn't make it to MSI. Because I actually think. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, are you saying that then the most popular team is like it's the same bracket at that point, and you're expanding the tournament to not just be the number one team from each region?
No. I would not mix like, Cloud9 with like a mixture of Team Liquid and TSM, for instance, if it was this year. I mean, there are kind of two different tournaments that are happening at the same event. You have like maybe in the mornings you have the All-Star component where it is like what the original. A lot of people don't know. But there didn't used to be MSI. MSI used to be called All-Stars. And the first event, one of my favorite events of all time, was the 2013. Was it 2013? Yeah,
I think it was 2013.
2014 wasn't there was one in 2014. I don't know if that's
the Shanghai one.
Right, because
it was 2013.
Are you sure? Because in 2013,
it was the first year of LCS.
We'd have to double check this because LCK wasn't on the.
It was the first year of LCS, which was 2013. That's how I know, because it was that, and that's how they sent like that was the Doublelift, Saint Vicious, Scara, Special. I'm trying to figure.
And it had Worlds implications and stuff too.
Yes, and that was where Peter got his big pentakill and
Okay, that was definitely season 3 then. The one that I was, I guess, sort of basing this idea off of was the one in 2014 where it was like they did All-Stars. The event in the middle of the season was All-Stars. I don't remember if they labeled it as All-Stars.
It was called All-Stars.
But it
was 2015 when they changed it, I think. Before then it was All-Stars.
Yeah, but then they also had, I believe, the top 4, the best team from the top 4 regions at the time. So I think it was Cloud9, Fnatic, SKT, and OMG. And they played in like a little... I think they played a group stage, and then they played like a bracket stage.
They do that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
they did. Crazy?
That was where, if you remember, Hai had his like collapsed lung, and Cloud9 got linked to play mid lane.
Yes,
in that
you're
tournament.
right. You're right.
Got absolutely smashed by SK. I remember all these things.
Yes, no, you're right. That was it. I remember because that Cloud9 was supposed to go, but then also Bjergsen and Peter went as North America's representatives.
And I think that was like the first year they released Earth, and I remember like they had that big Earth match where I think Bjergsen was like popping off on Zed or something.
But they only had 2 players from each region go. So my suggestion would be, if I recall, they didn't send. So my suggestion would be to kind of take your idea, J&T, which I think it's actually pretty smart, because how do you get players to care? Well, if you put it in the off season, they're like, why do I want to go? That's why I think every TSM member turned down their All-Stars thing, right? It's just not fun or whatever. But if you took All Stars and you merged it with MSI, MSI already kind of feels like a weird event to me because it's like mid-season. It's like one team only. If it's not a very popular team from that region, like let's say weird shit happened and like Dignitas went to MSI for us. I feel like North America would not care as much, and that's like an entire region that's just not watching. And so, or like maybe a more reasonable one is like FlyQuest, right? Like successful team, but probably doesn't have as big of a fan base as like some of the big ones. Having another event that's taking place that is back like the old true All Stars of 2013, where you did have like the dream team of players, where you could have had like, you know, the 5 most popular players in every role outside maybe the ones that qualified in the main event. I think that could be really cool. And I think that is the right way to do it. And then you don't have to worry because, okay, here's the other problem. I've said this before, I think. All Stars in part sucks because Riot just kills themselves making worlds. And then do you want to be the person who spends a ton of time after you've burned yourself out on worlds making All Stars an exciting event? I just don't. It's like everybody goes on break and then they come back and then like All Stars is happening. Nobody really wants to do it out the Riot side. It's just kind of like this thing that people have to do. So give everyone off season, make it real, and then make your All Stars event something that takes place at MSI. I really like this take, JNT.
Yeah, the main thing that I find like with the current like system of having All Stars in the off season, like it's the off season for a reason. Like players don't necessarily like. Obviously, this year there was no travel to go to an event because of COVID and everything, and it was held completely online. But like, it's the off season for a reason. Like, if you're like a top player who had just attended Worlds, you don't want to be traveling to another international event. As you kind of mentioned before, like a lot of the top vote getters this year, especially, and in previous years, they're starting to turn down All Stars, maybe because, you know, they don't find it interesting, or I guess in the case of like Doublelift or Bjergsen, they're just retired and they're taking an extended break or whatever. But I just feel like the placement of the tournament doesn't really make a lot of sense because it is the off season.
Yeah.
And like, if you're a player, like it might be more valuable to you to not attend the event and continue practicing either with your team or by yourself, like playing solo queue and like learning the new season and everything. Because I think before you were just mentioning how like it's not necessarily a super serious event because there's a whole lot of like not necessarily trolling, but like players are, you know, they're role swapping, they're experimenting with builds.
I mean,
they're
it's
doing
not
random shit.
a serious event at all. It's a for fun event.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, here's one additional scenario. I'll play it really quickly. Let's say TSM doesn't make MSI this coming year. If you're Power of Evil, maybe it does sound kind of nice to be able to go and play against like Faker. Like you're now incentivized to go play because you can go play against like great players from other teams that just didn't make it and were not able to win their finals, but did get voted in. So I think I think this is really interesting. Mark, I'm kind of curious. What's your take?
I don't have a super strong take. I think, you know, if it's just supposed to be a dumb for fun event for people to kind of have a nice send off, and especially when it was about partially like rewarding pro players. I mean, I know a lot of them don't want to go, but like when it's in Vegas, you know, and some of this stuff, like it could be fun. You know, I think there's that element to it where you can do that. And if you do it, that's kind of All Stars, and it's linked into this voting that you tied into MSI. Like, there's a bunch of the other questions about the format. Do you want to keep the influencers being there? Do you want to, you know, it's no longer at a fun location, probably. You know, I think it raises a bunch of other questions that I don't particularly care. I don't have a strong opinion on. But I do think it would really change the tone if you attach it to MSI and you move it all back to pro players. Yes, it will be for fun still, but I doubt it will be, you know, the same energy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly sure if you would eliminate the for fun parts or eliminate the streamers or content creators that come along with it. Like, I don't know how much value that would add or take away from an event. Like, if you were to merge it with MSI or hold it like a week prior. But Travis, one thing you did mention is like, you know, Riot, they put all their time and effort into Worlds and then they have to do it right after. I feel like that would also kind of eliminate having to hold an extra event. It's kind of just like an add-on to another one. But I don't know how much extra work that entails, obviously. But
I mean, I
maybe
think
that's better than having to plan and execute a whole event in and of itself.
100%. I actually, it would be interesting too if internally, if you pulled the people that have to put these things on, if they would rather just cancel All Stars in the winter and merge it in as like a side event to MSI. I bet a lot of them would probably rather do that. Either way, J&T, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we move on to the next caller?
No, that's it.
All right. Have a good one, and happy holidays.
Thank you. You guys as well.
See you.
Mark, Captain Flowers is in the chat. I don't know if you want to give him a shout out for his caring. Captain Flowers is in the Twitch chat. I don't know if you want to give him a shout out for his role in carrying you this past weekend.
Yeah, if you missed the Captain Flowers, I was saying that I felt like I did not have as much to do as you, and I felt bad during some of the cast. I was like, oh my god, he's talked for probably about a minute and a half straight, and I have nothing to add analytically.
Twitch. Oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, you go ahead. You fucking go ahead.
I was okay. Well, we were drinking. Twitch chat was saying that I should bring Flowers on. I have to unfortunately get permission from Riot Games to bring on Captain Flowers and several other people.
That's why I was saying he should make a VTuber.
Become a
model
VTuber?
he can rig up. Yeah.
Have you seen the Miko? I think her name is Miko, the current most popular VTuber on Twitch.
Wait, really? I didn't know who it is, and their name was Miko, but I think it's funny that it's probably just ripping off Miku.
No,
the Vocaloid.
Twitch chat will help me. She's her interviews are amazing. I think
I've seen them actually. I saw one or two with Skara.
Yes. Oh wait, she did one with Skara?
I think so. Or I couldn't tell if it was fake or what, because it was just Twitch. There was like a Twitter clip, but it was something about like water, and she like fucked something up. It was really funny.
I need to check this out because that's pretty. She's got some good stuff. Hunter suggested that. Well, I said I want to make a VTube character of myself for interviews for next year, and Hunter suggested I should make one that just looks like Shocks. And it's like, hello everyone. It is
you should start interviewing EU pros, but whenever you do it, you're the VTuber Shocks.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that would be good. Anyway,
right, I'm gonna person.
Yep. Off. Mark goes. Flowers, I miss you, man. I actually really miss seeing you at the studio and hanging out with you incidentally at events. I feel like I haven't had a chance to really hang out with you much this year, and you are definitely one of my favorite league esports folks to chill with. How do you say your name? Javigme?
Good question. So my name is Javier, so it's javigme.
Javigme. Okay, but you can understand what my confusion.
Javigme.
Yeah.
Can I call you Javi?
Yeah, Javi's perfect.
Javi. Where are you calling from?
I am based out of San Diego, California.
Oh, nice. Well, I'm also from that area. So, what do you want to talk about on the show?
So what I wanted to talk about was that pretty much why have All-Stars if people complain about it, and I was thinking that it made more sense to have something similar. I was trying to think of an event that's kind of similar to what I had in mind, and I think of Anime Expo and Comic-Con as ones that I think would be a lot of fun for people in the community to have. So my suggestion would be, if people always complain about All-Stars and pros don't want to compete in All-Stars, it makes more sense to have a completely for fun event where streamers and alike show up and just try to build their brands, for teams to build their brands, etc. And yeah, I'm trying to think of like business incentives as well as why it would make sense from the business perspective to have all of that organized, because it sounds like it would be a lot of effort. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So this is actually really interesting to me because it's got me thinking along a different line. So one, I bet you what my opinion is that Riot probably would have loved to not do All-Stars this year, but because they have all these sponsor obligations around events and that type of thing, and they didn't do MSI this year, that they basically had to do All-Stars because they were already so many other things that they had told to sponsors and all that stuff, they couldn't afford to have yet another thing get canceled. So that is sort of my working theory. You talk a lot about the business side of this. Actually, I kind of like your idea of like a lot of people get frustrated that there are streamers involved in this and all. So kind of talking about how, like sort of leaning into it in going purely streamer, I think sounds a little unconventional, at least based off of the feedback that people have given. But I think a lot about Twitch Rivals, and Twitch Rivals is very popular. Maybe not with Reddit entirely, but with a lot of the League of Legends community. So what if you just said, hey, pro players, you always get the time off, but instead we're going to do like the experience that you get from Twitch Rivals, but as a kind of like LAN situation where like maybe there are online tournaments regionally, and then you can qualify a Twitch Rivals team to go compete against other Twitch Rival style teams from other regions. I think that could be kind of fun. Mark, you're smiling right now.
I'm smiling because the caller asked us one question, and you're like, "Hey, that's interesting. Here's another idea."
No, I'm kind of going with what they are saying. I feel like he talked a lot about the influencer stuff. I'm talking about the influencer stuff as well.
He's not talking about influencer stuff. He was saying like a con, like an actual convention where like there's not even any gameplay. Like you go and there's a panel about top lane, and there's like getting to know SKT panel, and there's the broadcasters are there, and there's events and like giveaways and fan meets and signings and merch drops and stuff, because he was talking about incentivizing it with a business way. Like I think it's a pretty different thing.
Mark, why don't you lead this discussion for this call? Because clearly,
yeah, I'd love to.
I'm out of sync. Go for it.
I'd love to. I think this is an interesting idea. I don't know if it would ever work, but I can see a world where it would. There was one event way back in the day. I don't know if people remember. It's called Summoners Con. I think it was 2014.
Oh yeah.
It was a bit of a train wreck, but it actually had like decent turnout for being like a fan organized thing. Actually, I mean, I don't know that much about it. I just showed up for one day for it, but like it was okay. There wasn't a ton to do there, and I think Riot could maybe do a better job about making sure there's stuff for people. But you're buying tickets, people can watch online. There's also like, you could probably get some kind of virtual ticket to attend virtual thing, and like you could monetize it. I don't think monetization would be a problem. I think interest would be the concern. But I do think there's a world where for one weekend you just drop all the games, you still throw it in Vegas or something, but then it's just like fun the whole time. And maybe there's like some events like play against your favorite pro kind of things, try and win some gear against them. Like you just totally drop the idea that there's even a competition, that it's even all-stars, and you just make it a celebration of League of Legends and League Esports. Because the thing is, now Riot has like 8 games. They need a con, right? Like it's coming, right?
And as part of this convention, you could have a live Twitch Rivals event that takes place that has the Twitch Rivals teams competing against each other.
So I feel bad for you, dude, because sometimes like you're so far ahead that we think you're disconnected, but you're just waiting for us to catch up.
That's true.
I'm sorry.
That's true. I'm glad. I think that would be really good. No, I like this a lot. I mean, it's a bit of a separate thing, right? From now we're pretty far away from like an international competitive event, but you could definitely see something like this happening. And it is an interesting question because, like, let's say RiotCon was going to be a thing. Where would you put it in the schedule? I mean, it's kind of weird to run RiotCon, like, in the middle of the summer. I guess you could put it in the summer maybe, like, but it does feel kind of good.
Weird, yeah.
It does feel kind of good to have it at a time where there's not League Esports happening.
My thought was just kind of, like, replacing, like, I guess, like, originally, and my thought was kind of, like, what is the reason we have All-Stars? And the other question was, like, when would be, like, in regards to your question of when would it happen? Like, wouldn't right now be a decent time?
Yes, I agree. I mean, maybe a couple weeks ago would have been better. I think it's kind of weird to have stuff so close to Christmas, but yeah, having something in late November, early December makes a lot of sense. I actually think one of the nice things about All-Stars is you do theoretically get to see a lot of personality from all the league pros, and you get to see them interact with each other in a different way. But they could just do all that at a convention as well, and you could have like fun panels where it's like me or Latigris or Mark or somebody interviewing like the 5 most popular LCS players about the LCS and how things are going and all that stuff, and you see them all interacting. I think that type of content would be really good, and that could be a panel on this thing. So you could still have a lot of the value that you get from All-Stars in this event. So I like this.
I'm down with this idea too. I like it.
Thank you, Javi, for it. Is there anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Sure. I just wanted to shout out my friends that got me to start playing League of Legends and got me to start watching LCS. They don't watch anymore, but I still do. Shout out to Travis. I actually met Travis back in the day when he was doing a CLG signing event at Fashion Valley Mall back in like season 3, season 4.
Yes,
I was
for
like
Razor.
17 at the time. Yeah, back in the day. I think you signed my like high school student schedule because we literally were like running from school to go over there, and we didn't have anything else. But yeah, that event was really cool, and so thanks, dude.
You thank you. You're making me miss non-COVID years where I actually do get to meet people.
Fans.
Well,
Yeah.
because like
Yeah, what a concept.
yeah, I mean for me to watch to meet viewers and stuff, it actually feels so nice because so frequently we put content out there and people are just like dicks about it. And so when you actually meet somebody in person and they're like appreciative, it's pretty cool. Actually, I was at Panda Express recently and someone was like, "Yo, Travis, I love your content." And it was the first time in so many months that somebody had said something to me nice in person about my stuff. So it was really nice. But either way, thank you, Javi, for the call. And we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Have a
See
good
ya.
Some people in chat were like, "Man, you can't have pros walking around with fans. Fans won't be able to control themselves." It's like, man, if TwitchCon can work, this can work. Because I've been with Pokey at TwitchCons, and she has like a personal bodyguard around, and for the most part, it's fine. Like I don't think it's gonna get any crazier.
100% TwitchCon. There's tons of stuff like this. There's TwitchCon. There's
There's
VidCon.
BlizzCon there.
BlizzCon. Yeah, tons of stuff. It's fine. It
Yeah.
would be super fine. And you can. It doesn't. By the way, you don't need to have them necessarily walking around with everybody. You can have them come out for panels. You can have them participate in fun events, signing sessions, etc. There's ways to make this stuff work. So, yeah. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break right now to talk about Alienware. I want to shout out Alienware. Kobe is going home. Actually, I didn't get his permission to tell the story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. I hope he doesn't get angry with me. Kobe is going home for the holidays. He's getting a COVID test. He's quarantined a ton. He's done all the proper things. He's going to drive instead of fly. And the thing with Kobe is that he is really, really, really invested in playing World of Warcraft right now. And so one of the things that I am very happy to be able to do is loan him my Area 51M that Alienware provided me, which is this amazing desktop replacement laptop. It's a bit beefy, a little bit of a bigger boy, not something that is necessarily the type of thing that you bring to class with you every day, but it's perfect for this scenario, right? Where he wants to be able to keep playing WoW, making sure he's having a good time doing it.
Can't have any FPS drops.
No FPS drops. It's just a fantastic system for this. And so it's just kind of cool that like Alienware has provided me stuff where even with my friends and colleagues, I'm able to help spread the Alienware love. So that's kind of my fun holiday story for the Alienware stuff as we're going into the holidays. But I also just want to thank them so much. We actually did a meeting with them last Thursday to talk about 2021 plans, and I'm optimistic for next year working with them and hopeful that everything goes okay. But one of the things that we did, I tweeted this out earlier and I won't air it on this, but we did a compilation of a ton of the shout outs that people have given on this show for Alienware and some of the nice things that people have said as they've called in. And I think that was really nice to be able to air as we were talking about our performance this year and what we've been able to do, even in a COVID year where things like MSI have, not been able to happen, which is something that we sold them earlier in the year or at the end of last year when we thought it would be able to occur. So I just want to thank everybody who's called in and given them a shout out over the course of the year and really supported this partnership. As we go into 2021, you guys will be instrumental in having made something happen next year as long as it does happen. So thanks to everyone who supported us and that partnership over the year, and happy holidays. Anyway, you want to grab the next caller, Mark?
Yes, sir.
I am out of wine, unfortunately. But hopefully I'll be able to get more soon. Aquatic Banana, who says, got my wife an Alienware laptop for Christmas. Nice. That's awesome. Thank you. Hopefully we're able to use the code Travis10OffQ4 to do that. You can also go to alienware.com/Travis. Check it out. Love and Flow is on the show. Love and Flow, is this your first time on?
My second time on.
Your second time on. I know you as the person who trolls me a ton in Twitch chat. You are definitely a Travis Gafford Twitch chat troll, in my opinion. But where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Toronto, Ontario.
Toronto, Ontario. Now give me your address, please. Now, what do you want to talk about on the show?
My take for this year-end wrap is that the Doublelift saga was the most encompassing LCS story of the year.
I'm glad you said it so that I don't have
to. It's true every year, isn't it? Is there anything more important than
Doublelift? I think this year is just like a little more important than other years, though, particularly.
This year was a very drama-filled Doublelift saga. I mean, I don't think anyone could have predicted it going the way that it did. But go ahead and expand.
What made it stand out in particular this year for Doublelift?
I guess I'll do the quick recap, like from the fan perspective. So it's like, okay, Doublelift spring split doesn't matter. I want to win Worlds, so he's chilling, and that messes up the TL relationship. TL gets 9th. TL has won the last 4 years in a row, so this is absolutely bonkers. The fact that like their 9th place, Doublelift doesn't care, quote unquote. Him and Core JJ severs tie. He gets traded off the team. Okay, so now we're here and we're in the off season in between the two splits. I called in. I was like, everyone's making a big deal out of this Doublelift drama, the insider trading between him and TSM, and it's like, no one's going to care at the end of the year was my take. Basically, when TSM wins, everyone's going to be all like TSM, TSM, TSM. So then we fast forward to the end of summer when TSM does actually win and they pop off. And now you think, okay, well, wow, it all worked out. Doublelift tries, Doublelift's team wins NA. Like, that's just like the story of NA, apparently, right? So here we are. We have the story of NA, and then we have TSM bowing out at Worlds per usual, which is whatever. Worlds is hard. I'm going to give them the pass. Like, it's a hard competition, whatever. Like, that doesn't bother me as a fan. Like, that happens. And then, but to cap it all off, it's like Doublelift's on like a 2-3 year contract that he came over that we're expecting him to be on, and then he just ups and retires. So it's like, it's a whole new era of LCS is about to embark, essentially, which is why this like saga of him is like the most all-encompassing of the year, because it's like he dictates basically the ebb and flow of the league, you could say.
It is true. It does feel like at every point in this year, perhaps other than the Cloud9 streak, Doublelift was involved in the drama.
Well, he got to play both sides of the drama, because it wasn't just like, oh no, TL sucked, but by going to TSM then and like the tactical replacement, because there was also like he got benched too in spring. You know, like it wasn't just like they had a bad showing. Like it was a drama-fueled spring, and then there was like the interviews. You know, one has to get taken down and redone, and you know, like there's all this. Like you said, it was just drama-filled. It wasn't just like, oh, they sucked. That was surprising. You know, like there was him saying spring split doesn't matter, all that. Yeah, and then
even in the off season, it was like, wait, Doublelift might retire? Is he going to play? Is he laning with Sword Art, or is it lost? Like he was able to basically, you know, absorb so much of the conversation to the point where like oh, what were you saying?
Oh, you go.
I was going to say, to the point that I actually, like, even some people on Twitch chat are like, oh no, we're talking about Doublelift again. There's almost like Doublelift fatigue, where it's like this whole year was like Doublelift to the extent that I think people are like,
when
relieved.
You're the best, like happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, like it was so many other things too, because even in the off, I thought you were going to talk about between spring and summer, like with the Dardoch situation that, you know, leaked from his stream, and like all the drama that surrounded that. You know, the swapping support situation at TSM, and then like losing to FBI and Golden Guardians the first time around before rallying. Like it wasn't an easy, like, you know, like the caller definitely glossed over summer, and Ben was like, yeah, and then it was great, and it was like, no, they were like benching people left and right to try and make it, you know, and you also kind of glossed over Worlds and how much of a catastrophe that was, you know, like every step of the way. It wasn't just like, hey, Doublelift's the best, like it kind of was during his TL tenure, where we were just kind of like, okay, he's great, and he's talking a little bit of smack, whatever. You know, there was legitimate, I don't know, drama around it this time.
Yeah. No, it was, and It's weird too because I think I want to be careful with how I say this. I think Doublelift in the past, people liked him or disliked him because of his trash talk and because of what he could accomplish. But this year, he actually brought about like a lot of real drama, right? Like just even with like a lot of the stuff he was saying, where people are like, I don't know if you should be saying spring split doesn't matter, or I don't know if you should be shit talking your coaches that way, and like,
Maybe you should be playing solo queue instead of
yes, conversations around his personal relationships. Like there's just a lot of like, kind of TMZ-esque drama that was involving him. And so it is kind of, I think that is, as somebody who has covered his career for so long, I think that is one of my disappointments about how his final year ended, which is just like, it did not end in a very graceful way, right? It ended with a lot of like messiness around it. Even just the fact that it's like, had he retired, like imagine an alternate year where this year goes and like TL gets like third in spring and he doesn't ever get benched, and then he goes and stays on TL, and then summer they like manage to win, they do okay at Worlds, but he's kind of fatigued and decides to retire. Like that at least would that would not be this kind of like weird scenario where it's like you look back on now on his legacy and it's like he was on TSM and he found this initial success, and then it was like then 2.5 years he spent on TL, then he went back to TSM for 3 months and won, and then that was it. It is kind of like a weird way to look at this year, especially given what the caller said about how much of the space he occupied.
Yeah, I think. The one thing I'll say is it was definitely a bang of a year instead of a whimper. That's the thing you never want to hear. Is someone just like slowly.
It's not like he just got bad and
then
just retired in disgrace at the end of it. So.
Yeah, it's definitely it was a weird year. There's a lot of things that made this year awful and weird, and not all of it was real world stuff. The league world was also weird this year.
Yeah, there's basically from my perspective, it was just very funny because so much of this year was bizarre. Both to Mark's point, real world, but like I just the Peter stuff happening alongside other stuff that was happening in my life, just like everything about this year just felt so freaking weird. So I guess as we're talking about 2020 in general, and reflecting on this year, I'm very interested to see what 2020 brings. 2021, sorry, and I'm hoping it's boring. I want LCS to be interesting, but I'm hoping that for the most part it's like, oh yeah, 2021 was the year where like, Team Liquid looked good again, and Cloud9 and TSM were pretty good, and like everything kind of, then the vaccine started and we were able to get back into the studio and everything was fine again.
Papa Smithy goes 2020 was a filler episode, and it's like it was a filler episode, but it was also like handled by a different studio that like shot it differently and had a different animation style, and like the plot line's incoherent. You're like, what the fuck was that garbage you put me through?
True, yeah, exactly. It's the sequel that everybody disregards in the series of
it's the season 2 that people. It's like if it's True Detective season 2. Like no one wants to acknowledge that.
Yeah. Love and Flow, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we move on to our next caller?
I'd like to shout out Alienware for you guys because they're a G for you, and I'd like to also shout out the Fierce Force. Just a little work just gonna go on. So nice. Have a great show.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for your support over the years. It's always fun to see you pop up in Twitch chat, even if you're trolling.
Travis, you're a real G, and I'm never trolling when I say that. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Have a good one. Happy holidays.
Bye.
Man, sound like that tongue was firmly in cheek as he said.
He said he's not trolling when he says it. Anyway, off Mark goes. A couple more shout outs to some subs, by the way. Thank you to the Slatherpuss for 16 months, Grevith, and the Legend of Brom Burgundy. We actually lost like 50 to 60% of our subs month over month, just because I think everybody's tuning out from League. So it's always kind of a bummer whenever that happens. But I want to definitely thank everybody who stuck around during this time to keep subbing and all that stuff. It's noticed and appreciated, I guess I would say. Especially, I don't expect anybody to spend money, but the people that do throw their primes, free subs and stuff my way, so it's very appreciated. Okay. Mark should be back any second with that. I'm trying to throw some like holiday cheer on the stream. Looks like we got Danku here. Danku, where are you calling from?
What up? I am calling from Washington, D.C., and you can just call me Basil. You can ignore my weeb name.
Okay, Basil, thank you. I try to ignore most weeb names. Where you? You said you're calling from D.C.?
Yeah.
Nice. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I want to talk about, it's kind of been like really weird to me, but it's just how the narrative in the EU scene right now, you're seeing from coaches, you're seeing from GMs, owners, from players, is that if you're not in either Fnatic or G2, you have no recipe for success. You're just gonna, like, you're not gonna be able to do well. And I think like from the first few like players that I had heard it from, I was like, oh, okay, like whatever. I think maybe they're just exaggerating. You know, like you hear in other sports too, like in the NBA, people say if you're not on LeBron James' team, you're not going to get first place. But then it became more concerning when you had, you know, Perks, when he ended up coming over to Cloud9 and he was doing interviews, he was just saying, hey, like, yeah, there was no point. I wasn't able to go over to Fnatic. Yeah, I'm not going to go to another EU team. And you're like, oh, well, all right. Well, I guess that point is there. And then Carlos, when he did that interview, a lot of people were giving him flack for his approach of basically like gatekeeping Perks from going to Fnatic because he's like, I'm a businessman, I need my team to do well. I'm not faulting him for that. I think he definitely has to do it because it's his business is his number one interest. But then that kind of does showcase that, like, if you're gatekeeping the best talent and the best resources for those two teams, then the other teams aren't going to profit. I remember I got worried like 2 or 3 years ago because I thought that exact thing was actually happening in NA with TL, C9, and TSM. I'm super happy with how the year turned out because like Golden Guardians and FlyQuest completely flipped that whole entire script in NA. So that helped North America, but EU, I don't know. It's like it looks like a bad trend where it's like if that keeps going, you could see more EU talent trying to flood into North America because they don't see a chance of doing well in EU, and then there's less opportunity available for NA talent, and it just gets flooded down more and more.
I'm a little confused why you say that's a bad trend.
It's not that it's like I guess I shouldn't say like it's bad, but it's just like it kind of just makes it stale. Because like it's like then you're like, all right, G2 Fnatic, let me just put my money on them and we'll just see how the year turns out.
Yeah, I think but then we get all their talent that doesn't end up on either of those teams.
This is what Travis is trolling about. So like on the one hand, well, this is about to broaden out a little bit. The use of the word narrative sometimes by the community weirds me out because it's not like a narrative which is constructed. It's kind of like one that people are just observing. Like,
right.
You know, no one has won in EU except Fnatic and G2 and I think
Alliance.
Alliance?
No, Alliance.
Alliance.
Oh,
From
Alliance.
Like 2014.
Yeah. But basically, since 2014, no one has really won other than these two orgs. When you look at like just Twitter followers on their social medias, who is third in the league? I don't even know. I looked at Rogue and they're under 200,000.
Yeah.
Very good question. Like, I actually have no idea.
Exactly. Like who? So even if you're not
Rogue was third, Mad Lions was fourth.
Yeah, I don't know about Twitter impressions, but at least like 100 Thieves has 800,000. So beyond competitive, if you're just talking about like, hey, I can go to a big org, Team Liquid, C9, TSM are the big three, obviously, but even 100 Thieves can get decent viewership or like followers. So you have literally double the options just between those four. In terms of competitiveness, I hope players aren't in the mindset the entire year like, oh, I'm not on G2 or Fnatic, time to just try and look as impressive as I can so one of them hopes to sign me. At some point that trend will break for sure. But if I'm a current pro player and those are my options, I don't think it's a narrative to say that like it's really G2 and Fnatic right now. That's all it is right now. It will break at some point, but
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think it will lead to a break eventually. I just think it doesn't. I feel like for new European talent that's coming up, I feel like it's not going to be as attractive for them if they're like it basically makes me think of like the rest of the EU LCS teams, or I should say LEC teams, are like your internships when you're like first getting up into like any industry, and you're like, all right, cool,
Yeah,
I did my internship. All right, let's
it's
go
an
over to
opening
NA.
position. Yeah, or entry level position to play in any of the other orgs.
My name in Twitch chat is pointing out that Astralis has 731k followers. That's the old Origin.
Oh, okay. So,
Oh,
but a
yeah.
lot
okay.
of that comes from their,
From CS:GO, right?
yeah, from their CS team.
Well, I think that might have been the Origin account that they rebranded rather
Oh,
than.
right. Okay.
So I think a lot of that might even come from just like old Origin following in Europe.
Right, like
So.
Expeke following at that point.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I don't know if like Fnatic or G2 they have like some mystery formula, chemical X that they just have the solution to, which is why they keep going for the top two. But it's like just seeing that hyperbolic time chamber of just Fnatic and G2. I feel bad for a lot of the other EU teams. I like Mark. I'm hoping you're right that like probably within like the next 2 to 3 years we'll see like this trajectory where G2 won't do as well. I mean, I'm not gonna wish not well to the teams, but it's like it's nice to see when
I mean,
things
you can
get
ask for a new
turbulent.
story. I think, right?
It's the
Yeah.
Yankees. It's
No,
Golden
man, no.
State Warriors. You're just like, I want you guys to fucking lose. There's nothing wrong with you, necessarily, but like I'm sick of it. They snatch up all the good talent. They always win. You get sick of these kinds of things. It's very natural, I think.
I think that's why like Mad Lions started getting like a lot of support. And I mean that's why in NA we saw like the huge support for Golden Guardians and FlyQuest when like they were taking more wins and they were like coming up. I'll admit it, I'm a TSM fan and I was rooting for them in the summer season. But man, when that Golden Guardians game was going on, there was like a moment where like I cheer for Golden Guardians and I was like, what did I just do? What's wrong with me? But it was like it was like reinvigorating. It was like nice to see. And then EU is just kind of, I think it was like G2 was like in the summer playoffs they started off lower in the tournament and then they still made it to the finals and I was like I keyed out. I was just like this is so boring. It just keeps happening. And then just seeing all this stuff happening in the off season, it just I don't know. I'm just hoping that something changes eventually.
At least
Well,
G2 is
this-
nice enough to keep it interesting when they're winning. Like with are they going to do this? How many best of fives have they competed in? So
Oh
or
my God,
5 game
yeah.
series. So I don't know. Mark, any final thoughts on this before we?
No, I mean I think it's a very understandable sentiment that the caller has.
Yeah. No, I think. Look, we're not EU fans, and honestly, it does feel like a lot of EU fans are really happy with the Fnatic and G2 dominance. It seems like there's just a ton of G2 fans, but I am interested to see if next year somebody can finally break that.
We'll see what happens. See what
streak.
happens.
Anyway, thank you, Danku, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we move on to the next caller?
Obviously, Alienware for keeping Travis going all these years. I'm glad I was able to get on the call. You're a big inspiration for me, Travis. I'm a journalist also, but like I followed you in college, and I was like, wow, it's really great to see someone covering esports in the journalism field. So big shout out to you, man. Big inspiration.
Yeah, thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, guys.
Yeah, see ya.
Yep.
2 more callers to go. Thank you to the folks that contributed to Scam Train. Looks like hey, it's Hotshot. Thanks for the Prime. Slummy Broom, Lolzatron, Justin C. Scott. Very much appreciated, everyone. Thank you. How are you guys doing in Twitch chat? How's everyone's holiday stuff going? I hope you guys are all hanging in there. I know it's really tough, especially for folks that aren't able to safely travel to see family or people, and it's a tough situation. I know a lot of people are going to be spending the holidays alone, so just know that hopefully we get through this soon and there's good news on the horizon. Looks like Last Sacrifice is here. Last Sacrifice, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New York, New York. You can call me George.
George. Well, how's New York doing?
It's chill.
It's chill.
Yeah.
I mean, I would take chill in 2020 completely. Well, what do you want to talk about in the show?
So I wanted to talk about how one of the biggest things in 2020 was the growth of third-party content for the esports side of League of Legends, especially with post-streaming and more podcasts than you can ever imagine. And
Really, too
that
many.
in the yeah,
Just
you
kidding.
know, you have yeah, and then that in the future, Riot should look to integrate these content creators into the broadcast as they bring something unique that the regular broadcast doesn't. And if you want me to go into like some examples, I could.
Yeah, go for it. If one of your suggestions is just kill the analyst desk and everybody that's there, and then just
Travis?
bring in Travis Gafford content, I would agree with that.
Travis has tried to get me and the analyst desk fired and destroyed so many times. Every time I see him, he's like, "Mark, I have a great idea. What if we replaced you with," and then any idea?
Literally anything. Just
What if we replace you
just
with
more
cats?
ads, I think would be great. Sorry, Last Sacrifice. Go ahead and expand.
So one thing that I personally had trouble with is that the lead up to the LCS wasn't really entertaining. Like, like the 30-minute show that they had before LCS, I don't know what it's called.
Countdown.
Countdown.
Yeah. So I didn't even watch it this year. But like, I think one person who did a really good job creating documentary content in the scene was Jibe. And one thing I think you could do to hype up the broadcast before the games actually start is have one of his documentaries play, have it premiere on the broadcast. If you could partner with him to do something like that, he had like a great documentary on Dignitas, like the old Dignitas teams that I think esports fans would love. And
Oh, go ahead.
should I go? I also think something that the LCS broadcast often lacked is like it lacked like a heel, like that person that's just there that you love to hate, and like somebody that in traditional sports like you see play this role a lot is Stephen A. Smith, somebody that's just there so that to create controversy, that the people can hate on, and somebody like Dom, or like I know he might not have the best relationship with Riot right now, but I think he would be great in that role. And there's other people too that they would be great in that role.
This is a different call than I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be like, hey, the co-streaming stuff's sick. Here's some ways to expand on it. Now it's just turning into
We're
broadcast
kind of
sucks.
talking about this as a 2021 take, which is what we try to reserve for next week. But we could talk about this.
Yeah, because I mean, not that I'm outright disagreeing with that take, but it is a little different than what I thought. Because we do have someone else who wanted to talk about broadcasts and stuff from this year, so I don't want to steal their topic.
If you want me to shift it towards co-streaming, I could if you want.
Well, so yeah, I mean, what did you as a viewer? Did you mostly watch Dom's co-stream?
I mostly watched LS's co-streams, and sometimes I watch Sneaky's.
Yeah, I watched a lot of the Sneaky and Media's co-streams. I actually really liked the co-streams this year and thought that they were really fantastic and really grew into their own over the course of the year. And I what's very fascinating to me is the Valorant tournament that took place 2 weeks ago.
I was going to bring up too.
Myth had more viewers than the main broadcast, and so it's if I am right, perhaps I'm a little concerned about that. I don't know if that's something I want or I'm happy about, but it is an interesting lesson on maybe you don't need to have everything be like you can do a lot for these co-streams. You can do some interesting stuff. I mean, partnering with them and doing something other than just sending them the broadcast, but maybe doing call-ins with them. They did kind of that with Sneaky and Medios, I think, towards the end of the split. But having these be living, breathing, official broadcast partners, I think is really interesting. And
even if it's not killing the AD, like during the 3 minutes of and like you said, working closer together with these people during those ad breaks after the ads or whatever, if you have like filling this time with Sneaky co-stream during that period or
Yes.
whatever, and like letting them know, hey, we're going to be coming to you at this point in time, so like be ready and clean it up a little bit.
Yeah,
while we
maybe
come to you.
don't talk about your butthole, I think is a good suggestion.
I feel like if you're not hearing Sneaky talk about his butthole, it's not even like you're really watching him.
Yeah, true. But to your point, it's like you can't have these people make you. I think what's interesting is I'd love to know, and perhaps should have done a better job of asking Greeley in the past, like what is their. You could do like a whole 10 to 15 minute long conversation, just like, right. What is your approach on co-streams? Did you do this for fun? Is it grown bigger than you expected? Are you still happy with it? Like, are you worried that it overtakes the broadcast at some point in time? How many partners would you want for something like this? Is it? There's a lot of questions, and I think there's a world where, several years down the line, we look and say, wasn't it crazy that there was a time before co-streaming, and look at how huge it is now, and look what it does, and like. Even celebrity you could do like ridiculous things like celebrity co-streams and I don't know, all sorts of kooky stuff. So,
and I mean, there's been like lounge casts before, but I think one of the things that the co-streams do best is they have their own audience that they are kind of bringing, and they're also bringing a different kind of content that isn't Riot, which is I think a big part of it. I love Riot's content, but like it doesn't like if you want raunchy humor, like that is a niche that other people will fill that like Riot will just never do. Now, whether Riot wants someone to see a co-streamer doing that or not, it's a different question, but assuming that they're okay with it, like that's just a different avenue for you to watch. And like super hyper analytical that doesn't care at all about narrative and like play by play, that's another angle that we would never have as like a main product. So like I think the idea is really cool, and especially as pros retire, like the reality that people are going to be watching Doublelift, watch TSM games or TL games, and like having funny stories to tell and all this stuff, it's a huge draw. And so however they can best tap into that, I think should be explored, as long as it's not somehow harming the sport.
Yeah. No, actually, I really like this. When did they start allowing co-streams? It wasn't this year, right? They previously did some co-streaming, or am I crazy?
I think it was this year.
That's so crazy. It feels like it's been just a thing that's been around for so long. Oh, they did a test. Wait, they did a test for like a smaller thing. They did co-streaming maybe for like summer finals last year, or
yeah, this was the first time that I think it was like a big
where it was
thing.
like you could do it consistently week after week.
Mm-hmm.
They did a smaller thing at some point in time. So, somebody in chat says there was a trial on 2179. So that was a while into the future. So I don't know when that happened.
Or they're counting differently.
Yeah, it's true. Either way, thanks, Last Sacrifice, for the call. I really appreciate it. I think this is a good topic to talk about, and one that I had kind of forgotten was like actually a 2020 thing. But is there anything you want to shout out before we move on to probably our last caller?
I'd just like to shout out Alienware for helping out the show so much, and I'd also like to shout out like all the content creators who've been making so much content for the scene. They've really been providing a lot.
Yeah, thank you for that. On behalf of all the content creators. No, I appreciate your shout out of G-Bay and a lot of the other folks, because I do think.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh,
what were you gonna say, Mark?
No, I was gonna say I think there's a lot of great third-party content that I would like to bring to the broadcast. I know there are a couple people like even like doing their own stats things, like Tim and now you with Run It. Like, as long as it's not a conflict of interest, I would love to be able to just be like, hey, someone made some cool content, let's just grab it. And they kind of do it with team stuff. Like the team docs.
Lost the caller.
He just got bored with me talking.
Happy holidays, caller. Sorry if we took too much of your time. Sorry. Anyway, sorry. Continue, Mark.
But yeah, I was gonna say I like. There's so much good content coming from other people. I would love to be able to use more of it.
Yeah. I think it'd be quite fun to see that. I think what is interesting is this year, just to reflect on it a little bit, we saw ESPN Esports die, but we saw the rise of these co-streamers and my content doing really well, G-Bay, et cetera, et cetera. It's just fascinating to me that like you would have not like right now, as we're kind of thinking about 2021, it's like there's a world now where Riot could be partnering with people who are doing way more entry level type content, stuff out of their bedrooms, et cetera, et cetera. Part of that I think is because LCS has gone into to the thing where the whole broadcast happens from people's bedrooms, but it's just fascinating to think that like the big media companies and the content that they made, that's not what we're talking about. It is really these like individuals and these small individual streamers and YouTubers and stuff that are.
Well, I think it's I mean, like, I appreciate the professionalism of like the LCS broadcast and the studio and all that stuff goes on, and I wouldn't want to get rid of that. But I think one of the strongest things about esports is the low entry to or barrier to entry to make cool content, and like it rides on the individual, like you're saying. And I think finding ways to connect to that, because that's most of Twitch is in people's bedrooms, and so like most viewers aren't going to be skeeved out when they switch from Doublelift stream to Riot Games and there's like a more low-key thing going on. Not like I'm saying it should replace the main broadcast, but like whether you have this ancillary secondary content that is closer to what the rest of Twitch looks like is actually not that weird to me. And I don't think it would be weird to anyone except your sponsors who are like, what the fuck is this? This isn't traditional sports. And as long as you can somehow onboard them with like, hey, no, this is what gaming is. Gaming is a bunch of fucking idiots running around killing each other in Among Us and screeching on Discord. You know, like that's what AOC is doing because she gets it. You know, like like
I don't know
this
if she's
is where things are
screeching
going.
on Discord, but
she's not screeching, but you get my point.
I do.
Also, the whole idea about this is something that I've been thinking a lot about with other industries, not just gaming, but like direct to creator is becoming a lot more prevalent. You know, with monetization models and stuff, and like even like looking at Brandon Sanderson, right? Like his Way of Kings leatherbound stuff. Like at some point he could just start publishing himself. There's no reason he really can't right now, other than being a big headache he probably doesn't want to have to deal with. But like,
yeah, if you are a talent, I mean, you have to always kind of get yourself established. But if you are a creator, and you are established, why do you need ESPN Esports? Why do you need Yahoo Esports? Why do you need any of this stuff? Like you can you just screw those guys, go get Alienware to sponsor you, and show them what they're missing in their ivory towers. Their ivory 5G towers.
Gamers rise up.
Anyway, Mark is going off to grab our last caller of the year. John G365, thank you for the 15 months. Dude Upstairs, thank you for the 7 months. Really appreciate it, everybody, for all the support you guys have shown this year. Really is nice. ParadoxTheOnly is here. Paradox, where are you calling from?
Iowa City, Iowa.
Iowa City, Iowa. What do you want to talk about on the show?
You guys kind of touched on it. Just basically, I mean, I put it as a narratives being built off of like players and storylines from the LCS, but you guys were kind of touching on it where it's probably better done by third-party content creators. But unfortunately, it seems like other than you, Travis, Thorin, G-Bay, there's not really a lot of people doing that. And then for me, it's kind of like mostly through the beginning of the week, there's a lack of content. And now that you and Mark were talking about it a little bit, you guys are kind of already answering, I guess, my question about that, where it should probably come from third-party content creators.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're saying it's just like people tune in on the weekends, and then Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday hit, and there's just not much going on from Riot. You mean?
Yeah, but as you guys were saying, it's like it's out, I guess in the end not up to Riot. It's up to third-party content creators, I guess, because for Mark, who watches traditional sports like NBA, there's like first things first, first take, and etc. But that's not actually through the NBA, right? That's through ESPN, a third-party creator in that sense. But I still feel like the LCS could do a couple more things like the drive, but maybe at a smaller scale, like at a weekly basis or even a bi-weekly basis.
I mean, they do that with like this or that and the dive and all that stuff, right?
Well, this or that, I would say is more like fun, right? Like something fun. And then the dive, I guess there is some talk about players, but I'm more referring to like actual storylines, right? Like for Doublelift, him going back to TSM, you know, there was a storyline about him going against Team Liquid. There was a drive episode of Golden Glue, you know, just his journey from his Texas high school and things like that. Basically filling a player's background, giving us insight into their background that can add into certain matchups on the weekend, right?
Right, and I'll throw in an example. Like there were narratives this year that, you know, we would try to hit on. I don't think it goes directly to third party or the solution. Like I think, we should be very conscious of what's going on in the community so we can quickly follow the stories as they emerge. Like FBI becoming this guy who was okay but not great in fans' eyes to someone who was the best bot laner in the league. Like there should have been a run it type thing or a big narrative piece about him that's like 5 to 10 minutes long. And we're in a COVID environment, so maybe we normally would have got this done, but like those kinds of things should happen. And it shouldn't fall on third-party content creators to do that. And to the caller's point, like it's not just the dive we acknowledge just because we did, or like on AD. But I think we can. I mean, the AD we can do a better job. I'm not saying we were great about all the storylines, but in the future with 2021 and some of the big retirees, like I think giving fans digestible, smaller pieces of content that's not like here's a 15-minute episode about this guy. Like here's 3 minutes of really tightly scripted, well-made stuff about this player who's having a bit of a breakout right now. Not here's his whole year in recap, not here's his whole life story, not like this insane high production piece, but like, hey, we sat down with him for 5 minutes, had an interview, intercut it with some gameplay shit and some casters. Maybe you interview one caster and you chop it all up and put it out. I think that kind of content could go a long way.
I don't think you guys need to do interviews.
What's that?
I don't think you guys need to do interviews.
well, if you want to make this content, go ahead, because I'm
down.
Like it's because it's not an interview, right? Because like interviews exist and podcasts.
Yeah, it's like a mini
and
feature.
Yeah, but like mini featurettes or something. I don't know what you call them.
Yeah, help
think
remind
that's
me, Mark. So
I think that's part of something that I missed really is because the COVID year we had, there was less interviews for Travis to do, and of course a lot of players are declining. And I think that's another problem too, right? Is that part of narratives and storylines do have to come from the players, right? They have to opt into these interviews and build their own personal brand. I'm pretty sure Travis touched on this earlier in the year, where players should see the value in building their personal brand and talking with people such as Travis, right? And opting in to do these interviews for.
Oh no, you've now activated my trap card. I should have. I guess this is an interesting take, and maybe I should. You've made me think of this. 2020 sucked from a trying to cover this stuff thing. Like, I don't know how much I talked about this at the time, but like I tried to cover Worlds, right? Fnatic,
coming out?
Fnatic, G2, TSM, the 3 most popular teams in the West. I believe I got one interview from any of those teams at Worlds. And I get it. It's COVID, and stuff is tough. But like, I don't think it would have been impossible to
definitely not
to get that going. And I put a tweet out there that was like, "Hey players, I will media train you because we've got all these new faces and all these new folks who are doing interviews for the first time." I had 2 people reply to me, which is honestly 2 more than I expected. But yeah, I think as the league itself has, the league and a lot of the teams have undervalued working with content creators and third-party media this year, and I think it's really disappointing. And it's something that I think is like 2020 was definitely the toughest year for me to cover, not just because of COVID stuff. I think for a lot of the reasons that would have existed even in a non-COVID time. And I don't think that's good for the future of the sport. So I do hope it changes.
Now that Doublelift retired, Travis is looking for his next cash cow to milk and help grow into a superstar. So Fudge, if you're listening, that could be you. Could be another one of the up and coming NA talents.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's it's not just me, right? Like this is the whole league has relied on fucking Doublelift content for years and years and years, talking about him, talking about the controversies around him, talking about his story, et cetera, et cetera. We need other players that are exciting, and I think we didn't know no one would have predicted Bjergsen and Doublelift were going to retire at the end of this year, but I wish we had known it because I think. And I hope that everyone would have worked together to make sure that there were exciting new faces and players to talk about next year, and that there were stories that we didn't have to start, coming up with now, and players that we didn't have to start building now as personalities for 2021, and that we could have built towards. So I think that is really disappointing, and it is something that I am somewhat concerned about going forward.
The real quick question, Travis, I'm not sure if you know, do these players and even orgs to an extent, do they not have it written in their? I'm not sure if they have a collective bargaining agreement like the NBA.
They don't.
Their franchise. Oh, okay. Well then, they have no requirement to do any media work. Is that correct?
Riot has some stuff with the teams that they're supposed to require. Like I think Riot has a rule in the World's rule book, for instance, where every team has to do, I want to say it's like 2 interviews, or you have to send two different players after every game, win or loss. I don't even think all those teams did that. I get the feeling, and I reached out to Riot about this, and they never really got back to me on an answer. But I think that teams were literally breaking the World's rules about this, and I never really found out what happened. I asked them about it. They said they'd perhaps let me know after Worlds, and then they just never did. So I don't know. I don't.
Is the TGAF expose complaint video?
Well, here, wait, hang on. I forgot about this too. I was going to say this. No. I'm not going to turn this into a big expose or whatever. I'm just going to talk about it.
I thought you were
now.
about to get into the number of interviewers as well. That was another angle that you talked. I mean, like during Worlds, the reason I have all this is because during Worlds, Travis and I would be up late playing Genshin Impact, and we would just bitch at each other for like, one of us would have something that bothered us, and we would just bitch for like 4 hours straight. And Travis, it was always about the interviews and the content and like this kind of stuff. And I don't remember what I was complaining about.
Yeah.
I'm sure I was complaining about something.
But by the way, I should have mentioned this in the All-Stars stuff. Part of the reason I didn't cover All-Stars, Riot didn't give us a way to cover All-Stars. There was, unlike LCS and Worlds and all this stuff, there was no media access. Well, we were told they would send us written quotes from the players. So when you see that Riot doesn't even give a shit about having media cover this event, it's like, why should I give a shit about covering it?
Yeah.
So
no,
it's
they're
just,
really dropping the ball. It sounds like.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've always felt too, which is why I made it directed at them rather than third-party content creators. But I guess hearing you speak now gives me more insight. That's really Riot and the LCS dropping the ball.
I mean, it's everybody. It's the players, it's the teams, it's Riot.
Well,
I'm not even saying media couldn't have done better, right? Like, ESPN decided to leave esports this year. That looks really bad for them because this is going to be a huge entertainment thing going forward. They just, rather than trying to figure out why they were failing in it, they just gave up. And I think I could have done more, right? Like, halfway through this year with the COVID stuff was hitting, I was kind of phoning it in, just doing these video interviews, and it wasn't really until later on in the year that I really started trying to find good content. So I think everyone is responsible for, as good as some of the third-party media was and third-party content was, we did not all do a great job of creating, of telling the stories of the LCS and doing interviews and like helping to build new figures and stuff. And I hope everyone recognizes that for next year.
100%. Yep.
Anyway, Paradox. Sorry that I'm ending on a
Sorry.
Scrooge note. I apologize.
No, it's not. It's definitely what I wanted to hear. Right. You're the primary person I hear and digest content for on League of Legends. Like literally every time you post a video, I literally just listen to it on my phone, my AirPods while I'm doing something. That's literally how I do get through my day. Not just you and NBA stuff, right? But for League of Legends, you're like my main source.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Hopefully
I
you
love
enjoyed the Bjergsen interview if you haven't.
Yeah, I already listened to it. It was
Nice.
great.
Awesome.
It was fantastic. But yeah, that was my purpose for the call.
Yeah, well, thank you so much and happy holidays. I really, really do appreciate the support and hope you have a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. And other than that, just shout out to Alienware. It's great that they're sponsoring you and helping you develop this at a higher level and a more, what would you say, like refined way. And other than that, am I able to shout something out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I thought that you had shouted out other stuff, but I should have given you the official floor for the shout out. Go for it.
All right, so I'm the host of a Twitch game show called The Only Game Show. We invite 8 different streamers every Friday, Saturday night. We had our 39th edition last weekend, and we're open to any Twitch streamer that's a Twitch affiliate. But yeah, that's the only thing I want to shout out.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, thanks for calling in, and best of luck to you as a content creator in the new year.
Thank you very much. You as well.
Have a good one.
See you.
Our last call of the year. Our last episode of the year.
You know, I always refresh your books channel, hoping to see that little blue dot next to it that there's a new video, and every day I'm disappointed.
I need to do more for the book channel. I kind of got burned out through October and November. Whenever the group stage stuff was just flopping hard for me, I decided to go Super Saiyan, and I think that's what it's called, right? Super. I didn't watch that series, but you have a pained look across your face. But I did the most views and stuff that I've ever done in October, and I did a ton of videos in November around stuff. And so this month I've been kind of burnt out. Also, people are just not paying attention to the stuff that I'm putting out there because I think it's December and people are like, League of Legends is dead. Waking up in January.
Fuck League, let's do books. Let's
True.
talk about First Law.
True.
Original trilogy.
Yeah.
That's all
Mahmood in the chat says thank you for the shout out. Well, I guess here I'll say something here at the end. Thank you to everyone who's watched all of our content this year and all these episodes. It's been crazy how many. I know we hit 150 episodes not too long ago, and I just want to thank everyone who supported my stuff and everything I've done and the show here with Mark. It's been really great, and so thank you everyone. Mark, I don't know if you have any parting words for this year.
No, I mean, I just gotta say it's been a tough year. We got through it. 2021 really can't get much worse without World War III or something breaking out. So as long as we avoid that, I think everything will be on the up and up soon. Hopefully, things seem to be getting better. There's a vaccine. My mom got the vaccine. She's a physical therapist in a hospital. She's a frontline worker. She got it. So I think maybe we're starting to turn the bend, and things will have some semblance of normalcy again soon.
Yeah.
And other than that, that's it. That's 2020. Let's see each other next year and have a better fucking year. I don't know.
Yeah. Looking forward to. Guess what? We're kicking off next year with Mark moving one block away from me. So that's a sign that things are going to be great for me. I'm going to have Mark around more. We'll be able to go on social distance walks whenever it's safe. Anyway, thanks. Thank you so much, Mark, for being my co-host this year, as for the past several years, and thank you everyone for watching. This has been Hotline League episode 154. We'll see you next year.